The old ship groaned as it moved through the darkness of space. Its name was Gentle Dawn, and it had been flying for 60 years without rest. The metal walls were patched in 100 places. The engines made sounds they should not make. But still it flew. Still it carried what remained of the people. Sat alone in the communications room. She was young, barely 23 years old by human counting. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were large and dark like the night sky of a world she had never seen. She had been born on this ship. She had never known solid ground beneath her feet. She had never felt real wind on her face. The of her people was gone, eaten by monsters before she was born. Around her, screens flickered with static. Her job was simple. She listened. She listened for signals from other ships, other worlds, anyone who might help them. But no one ever answered. The Galactic Assembly had decided long ago that they were already dead. They just had not stopped breathing yet. Tonight was tired. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. The static became white noise, almost peaceful. Then something changed. A voice cut through the static. It was strange and rough. The language was unknown to her, but beneath the words there was music, actual music. Someone was singing. Sat up quickly. Her fingers moved across the controls. She locked onto the signal and ran it through the translation system. Slowly, the words became clear. This is Earth. If anyone can hear us, we are still here. We are still fighting. We will not surrender. We will not go quietly. And if no one comes, we will face the darkness alone. But we will face it standing. His hands trembled. She searched for more signals from the same source. There were hundreds, thousands, messages of defiance, songs of hope, stories being told even as cities burned, a whole world dying and yet still shouting into the void. She ran from the communications room. Was on the bridge when his sister burst through the door. He was older than her by 12 years, and the weight of those years showed on his face. A long scar ran down his left cheek, a gift from a boarding party many years ago. He was the captain of the Gentle Dawn and the leader of their small fleet. 5 ships, 12,000 people. That was all that remained of a civilization that once numbered in the billions. "What is it?" he asked, turning from the navigation display. "There is a world," said, breathing hard. "A world under attack. They are there. They are harvesting it." His expression did not change. This was not new. The harvested many worlds. They were a machine-organic empire that consumed living beings to fuel their endless growth. The Galactic Assembly watched and did nothing. They always did nothing. And said coldly, "They are fighting back, the people of this world. They are fighting and they are asking for help. Then the Assembly will help them." No, shook her head. "I checked. The Assembly has declared them non-viable. They say the world is too primitive, not worth saving." Turned away. "Then there is nothing to be done." "Brother, please, listen to their voices. They are not giving up. Even alone, even abandoned, they refuse to give up. Does that not remind you of anyone?" The words hit like a blow. He gripped the edge of the navigation console. 60 years ago, they had sent their own calls for help. They had begged the Assembly for aid. The Assembly had debated. The Assembly had discussed. And while they talked, they ate the. "We cannot save them," said quietly. "We could not even save ourselves." "Then we die with them." The voice came from behind. Both siblings turned. Elder Bora stood in the doorway. She was ancient, her blue skin faded to gray, her body supported by a simple walking frame. But her eyes were sharp and clear. She had been a child when they fell. She had watched her parents burn. She had spent her entire life running. "Elder," said with respect, "this is not your decision to make." "No," Bora agreed. "It is yours, Captain, but I am asking you to make the right one." She moved slowly into the room. "I have lived a long time. I have seen our people fade away, generation by generation. We survive, yes, but we do not live. We have forgotten how to live. We have forgotten what it means to stand for something." "Standing will get us killed," said. "Perhaps, but I would rather die standing than live another 60 years as a ghost." Bora reached out and touched his cheek gently. "Your parents did not flee so that you could simply exist. They fled so that you could be better, so that we could all be better." Closed his eyes. The memory of his mother's face flashed in his mind. She had put him in on the last evacuation ship. She had smiled and told them to be brave. Then the doors had closed and he never saw her again. "If we go," he said slowly, "we may lose everything." "We have already lost everything," Bora replied. "This is our chance to gain something back. Not territory, not power, something more important, our souls." Silence filled the bridge. Watched her brother's face. She could see the war inside him, the fear fighting against something older, something deeper. Finally opened his eyes. He turned to the navigation officer. "Set a course for the third planet of the Sol system. All ships are to follow, maximum speed." The officer stared at him. "Captain, that will take us directly into controlled space." "I know. We will be outnumbered. We have no reinforcements." "I know," looked at his sister. A small smile crossed his lips. "But neither do they, and someone has to be first. Someone has to show the galaxy that the abandoned are not worthless, that the forgotten still matter." The fleet changed course. 3 days later, they arrived at Earth. What they found broke his heart and filled it with fire at the same time. The planet was beautiful, blue and green and white like a jewel floating in the darkness, but around it war raged. Human ships, small and crude and desperately brave, threw themselves against harvesters. They were dying by the dozens, but for every ship that fell, another took its place. The humans were losing, but they were not running. They were not surrendering. Stood on the bridge and watched the battle. His hands were steady, his heart was not. "Open a channel," he ordered. "All frequencies." Obeyed. Channel open. Took a breath. "Attention, human vessels. This is Captain of the refugee fleet. We have heard your calls. We have come to stand with you. You are not alone anymore." Then he gave the order that would change history. "All ships engage the enemy. Protect the humans. Show them what the forgotten can do." The 5 small, battered ships flew forward into the fire, and for the first time in 60 years, they were not running away from something. They were running toward it. On the gentle dawn, whispered a prayer to gods she was not sure existed. But as she watched the battle begin, she felt something she had never felt before. Hope. "We came to Earth's aid when no one else would. They came back and changed our fate forever." Part 2. The Battle of the Blue World. The harvester was 3 kilometers long. Its body was made of black metal and living tissue, twisted together in a way that hurt to look at. Thousands of smaller drones flew around it like insects around a corpse. It had been sent to collect the last of Earth's population. It had not expected resistance. Pushed her fighter to its limits. The engine screamed. Warning lights flashed across her cockpit. She had been flying for 16 hours without rest. Her squadron was gone. Her wingman had died 2 hours ago when a beam cut his ship in half. She was alone and she was going to die. But she kept fighting. What else could she do? Unidentified vessels entering the battle zone, her radio crackled. Multiple contacts, unknown configuration. Looked at her scanner. 5 ships were dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They were not human ships. They were not either. For one terrible moment, she thought the assembly had finally sent forces. But if that were true, they would have announced themselves. They would have demanded the humans stand down and accept processing. Instead, a voice came through her radio. It spoke in broken English, clearly translated by a machine. "Human vessels, this is Captain of the. We have come to help you. You are not alone." Felt tears in her eyes. She blinked them away. There was no time for tears. "Unknown vessel, this is Lieutenant of Earth Defense Wing 7. You need to leave. The will kill you. This is not your fight." There was a pause. Then the voice returned, and this time it was warm. "It is now." The ships were old and small. Compared to the harvester, they looked like toys, but they moved with purpose. They knew exactly where to strike. Stood on the bridge of the gentle dawn, watching the battle unfold. His ship shook as weapons hit the shields, but he remained calm. He had fought them before. He knew their weaknesses. "Target the harvester's sensor array," he commanded. "If we blind it, the drones will lose coordination." The weapons were outdated, but they were precise. Green beams of energy lanced out and struck the harvester's head. Explosions bloomed across its surface. The drones around it suddenly became confused, flying in random patterns. "It is working," reported from her station. "The drones are breaking formation. Tell the humans to concentrate fire on the harvester's engines. If we can stop it from moving, we can stop it from escaping." Sent the message. Moments later, human ships changed their attack patterns. They stopped trying to fight the drones and focused everything on the harvester. Missiles and energy beams pounded its massive engines. The battle became a dance. Ships drew the drones away while human ships attacked the main vessel. Neither fleet could have won alone. Together, they were something new, something they had never seen. But victory always has a price. The ship Quiet Hope was the first to fall. A beam cut through its weakened shields and split it in two. 300 died in an instant, cried out when she saw it on her screen. She had friends on that ship, a boy she had grown up with, a teacher who had taught her to read. "Stay focused," said, though his own voice was tight with pain. "Honor them by winning." Then the last light was hit. Its engines exploded and it began falling toward Earth, burning like a meteor. The crew managed to evacuate some people to escape pods, but not everyone. Not nearly everyone. 2 ships gone, 2,000 dead, and the battle was not over. Watched the alien ships sacrifice themselves for her world. She did not understand. She did not know these people. She did not know why they had come, but she knew courage when she saw it. Her fighter was damaged. One engine was dead. Her weapons were nearly empty, but she saw an opening. The harvester's main weapon was charging for another shot. If it fired, it would destroy the largest ship, the one called Gentle Dawn. Without thinking, flew directly at the weapon port. "Lieutenant, what are you doing?" her commander shouted through the radio. "Buying time," she answered. She fired everything she had. Her last missiles, her last energy charges, all of it poured into the weapon port. The explosion was massive. The harvester's main weapon went dark, damaged beyond immediate repair. But the blast caught its fighter. She spun out of control, her cockpit filling with smoke and alarms. "I am hit," she reported calmly. "Engines are gone, life support is failing, it has been an honor." She closed her eyes and waited for death. It did not come. When she opened her eyes, she saw a small shuttle approaching her. It was not human. Its design was smooth and curved, like a seashell. A blue light reached out from it and wrapped around her fighter. "Human pilot," a young voice said over the radio. "Hold still, we are bringing you aboard." Guided the shuttle herself. She had never flown a rescue mission before. Her hands shook as she operated the towing beam. But she would not let this brave human die. Not today. Felt her broken fighter being pulled into the shuttle's small cargo bay. The doors closed. Air hissed as the bay pressurized. Then the shuttle's inner door opened, and she saw the alien who had saved her. Was smaller than expected. She had pale blue skin and large dark eyes that looked full of kindness. She wore a simple gray uniform. She looked scared. She looked determined. She looked a lot like Felt. "You saved me," said. Her voice was rough. "You saved us," replied. "Your attack stopped their main weapon. You gave us a chance." They stared at each other. 2 women from different worlds, different species, different lives. But in that moment, they understood each other perfectly. In orbit, the battle reached its end. The harvester, blind and wounded, tried to retreat. But the combined human and fleet would not let it escape. They surrounded it. They tore it apart piece by piece. When the core finally exploded, a cheer went up from every human ship. On the ground, Commander stood in his underground bunker and watched the reports come in. He was an old soldier, hardened by years of war. He had seen his family die. He had seen his country burn. He had prepared himself to die today, fighting for a world that had no hope. But now strange aliens were flying beside his pilots. The enemy was retreating, and for the first time in 2 years, the sky above Earth was clear of ships. Sat down heavily, his hands would not stop shaking. "Sir," a young officer asked, "are you all right?" Looked at her, tears ran down his weathered face. He did not try to hide them. "Someone came," he whispered. "After all this time, after everyone abandoned us, someone actually came." In space, the gentle dawn drifted among the wreckage. Its shields were gone. Its hull was cracked in a dozen places, but it had survived. Lay on the floor of the bridge. A falling beam had struck him during the battle. His side was wet with blood. His vision was fading, but he could see the blue planet safe and whole. Knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Brother, stay awake. Help is coming, please." Smiled weakly. "Did we win?" Yes, we won." "Good," he coughed and blood stained his lips. "Then it was worth it. We did what no one did for us. We came when they called. Whatever happens now, remember that. We were not just survivors today, we were something more." His eyes closed. Screamed for the medics. She held her brother's hand and refused to let go. Around her, the surviving tended to their wounded and counted their dead. 2 ships lost, 2,000 souls gone. But below them, a world of 8 billion people was still alive, still fighting, still hopping. And for the first time in 60 years, they had something to hope for too. 3 weeks had passed since the battle. They were not gone. They had retreated to the edge of the solar system, gathering their forces, preparing to return with an armada that would crush all resistance. Everyone knew this. Everyone prepared. The ships had landed on Earth. They had no choice. The Gentle Dawn was too damaged to fly. The other 2 surviving ships needed repairs that could only be done on a planet's surface. So for the first time in 60 years, feet touched solid ground. Elder Bora was carried out of the ship on a simple stretcher. She was too weak to walk, but when the stretcher was set down on the grass, she reached out and touched the green blades with trembling fingers. Tears fell from her old eyes. "I never thought I would feel this again," she whispered. "Real ground, real air, a real sky." Around her, others stepped out into the sunlight. Many of them fell to their knees. Some cried. Some laughed. Some simply stood with their faces turned to the sun, feeling its warmth for the first time in their lives. The humans watched in silence. They did not fully understand what they were seeing, but they understood enough. Commander approached Elder Bora and bowed deeply. "Elder, on behalf of the people of Earth, I welcome you. Everything we have is yours. You saved us. We can never repay that debt." Bora looked up at him. "Then do not repay it. Pass it on. When you find others who are alone and afraid, help them as you were helped. That is all we ask." Nodded, he understood. This was not about payment. This was about something bigger, something better. In the days that followed, humans and worked together. They shared all their technology, shield designs, weapon systems, ship blueprints, battle tactics. They held nothing back. They gave everything. "Why?" a human engineer asked a scientist. "This is your most valuable knowledge. Why share it so freely?" The scientist, an older man named Minyu, smiled sadly. "Because secrets did not save our world. Perhaps sharing will save yours." The humans proved to be fast learners, terrifyingly fast. Minyu had expected the shield modifications to take months. Human engineers completed them in 6 days. He had expected the weapon upgrades to require special equipment. The humans built the equipment from scrap metal and broken machines. "How do you do this?" Minyu asked in amazement. A young human woman shrugged. We had to. When you have no time and no resources, you learn to make things work, or you die. They had survived by running. The humans had survived by adapting. Together, they were creating something neither could have built alone. Spent most of her time with. The human pilot had recovered from her injuries and refused to stay in bed. She said there was too much work to do. Understood. She felt the same way. They walked through a human city together. Most buildings were damaged or destroyed, but people were rebuilding. Children played in the streets. Music came from an open window. How can they do this? Asked. How can they laugh and sing when the enemy is coming back? Thought about it. Because if we stop living, they have already won. They want to harvest our bodies. We will not let them harvest our spirits too. Did not fully understand, but she felt the truth in those words. Took her to a small museum that had somehow survived the bombing. Inside, there were paintings and sculptures from human history. Stared at them for hours. She saw images of war and peace, love and loss, triumph and tragedy. She saw the entire range of human emotion captured in paint and stone. "These are beautiful," she said softly. "This one is my favorite," pointed to a painting of a night sky filled with stars. It was painted by a man who was very sad, very troubled, but he looked up at the darkness and saw light. He saw beauty. He saw hope. Looked at the swirling stars and felt tears in her eyes. "We lost all our art when our world burned. Our paintings, our songs, our stories, all gone. I never knew what we were missing. Then we will share ours." Took's hand. "And maybe someday your people will make new art about this, about how two dying peoples found each other and chose to live." That night sat by her brother's bed, was recovering slowly. The wound had been deep and he had lost a lot of blood, but he was strong, he was stubborn, he refused to die. "Tell me about them," he said weakly. "Tell me about the humans." So told him everything, about and her courage, about the engineers who worked without sleep, about the children who played in the ruins, about the painting of the stars. Listened with his eyes closed. When she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "We chose well," he finally said. "Coming here, helping them, we chose well." "Yes, we did. I need you to promise me something." "Anything." "If I die, do not let our people run again. Stay here, fight here. Win or lose, stay. This is our home now. These humans are our family now. Promise me." Squeezed his hand. "I promise, but you are not going to die. We have too much work to do." Smiled. "Yes, we do." In the command center, Commander stood before a wall of screens. Each screen showed a different part of Earth's defense preparation. New shields being installed, new weapons being tested, new ships being built. And then there were the human scientists working on something special, something secret. "Show me," said. A young scientist named stepped forward. She was barely 30 years old, but her eyes were old and tired. She had lost her entire family in the first attack. She had dedicated every moment since then to fighting back. "They communicate through a hive link," she explained. "Every drone, every ship, every soldier is connected to a central network. It is how they coordinate. It is their greatest strength. And it can also be their greatest weakness." Pulled up a diagram. "Using the data, we have developed a disruption signal. If we can get it close enough to a command ship and broadcast it at the right frequency, we can break their network, just for a few minutes. But in battle, a few minutes can change everything." Study the diagram. What is the risk? The signal must be broadcast from inside the ship. Whoever carries the device will likely not survive. Silence fell over the room. Everyone understood what that meant. This was a suicide mission. "It is our best chance," said quietly. "Maybe our only chance." Nodded slowly. "Keep working on it. Make it as effective as possible. When the time comes, we will find someone brave enough to carry it." That night, Elder Bora addressed a council of humans and she stood with difficulty. supported by Minu on one side and on the other. "We are two peoples," she said, her voice weak but clear. "Different in body, different in history, but the same in heart. We both know what it means to be abandoned. We both know what it means to fight alone. And now, we both know what it means to stand together." She paused to catch her breath. "The enemy is coming. They will bring a force beyond anything we have faced. They believe we are weak. They believe we will break. Let us show them how wrong they are. Let us show the entire galaxy that the forgotten have not forgotten how to fight." A cheer rose from the crowd. Humans and together, their voices mixing into one sound. Outside, sensors detected movement at the edge of the solar system. The Armada had begun its approach. 50 ships, 100 ships, the numbers kept growing. The second battle for Earth was coming, and this time there would be no retreat for either side. The Armada filled the sky like a plague of metal locusts. 120 ships, 30 harvesters, thousands of drones. It was the largest force they had ever sent to a single world. They were not just coming to harvest Earth. They were coming to make an example. Against this nightmare, the human and fleet seemed like nothing. 43 ships of various sizes. Most were patched together from wreckage. Some were civilian vessels with weapons welded to their hulls. 3 were the surviving ships, now repaired but still from the first battle. The numbers were impossible, 30-1. No fleet had ever won against such odds. But numbers are not everything. Commander stood on the bridge of the Unity, a human carrier that now served as the flagship. Beside him stood, still weak from his wound but refusing to stay behind. His sister had begged him to rest. He had told her that captains do not rest while their people fight. "All ships report ready," an officer announced. "Looked at, any last words of wisdom?" Almost smiled. "Fight smart, fight together, and if we are going to die, make them pay for every inch." Nodded and opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Commander, I will not lie to you. The enemy outnumbers us badly. Many of us will not survive this day, but let me tell you something. 2 months ago I thought humanity was finished. I thought we would die alone, forgotten by a galaxy that did not care. Then they came. They came not because they had to, but because they chose to. They taught us that the abandoned can still choose to stand. So today we stand, not for victory, not for glory, for each other. For everyone who has ever been told they do not matter, let the galaxy watch. Let them see what the forgotten can do." He closed the channel. Around the fleet, weapons charged, engines burned, hearts pounded. They did not bother with words. They simply attacked. The battle began in chaos. Beams tore through human ships. Drones swarmed in waves. The darkness of space lit up with explosions and fire. But the human and fleet did not break. They had practiced this. They had planned for this. Ships formed defensive clusters, their superior shields absorbing damage while human ships struck from unexpected angles. Human pilots flew with a madness that terrified even their allies, diving into enemy formations, targeting weak points, refusing to retreat even when their ships were burning. Led a squadron of mixed human and fighters. Her new ship was faster than her old one, upgraded with technology, but she flew it like a human, aggressive, reckless, alive. "Stay on my wing," she called to her squadron. "Hit the harvester's engines, then get out before the drones catch us." They dove together, a knife cutting through the enemy fleet. Missiles launched, beams fired. The harvester's engine section erupted in flames. Target hit, breaking off. They scattered as drones gave chase. 2 fighters did not make it, but the harvester was crippled, drifting helplessly. 1 down, 29 to go. On the gentle Dawn watched the battle unfold on her screens. Her hands moved constantly, coordinating communications between human and ships. She was the bridge between 2 peoples, translating orders, sharing information, keeping everyone connected. Then she heard the plan. The disruption device was ready. Someone needed to carry it into a command ship and activate it. Someone who would not come back. Closed her eyes. She thought of her brother. She thought of Elder Bora and all the who had died to get them here. She thought of the painting of the stars. She made her decision. "This is," she broadcast. "I am taking the disruption device. I will need a small team to get me through the enemy lines." No's voice was sharp with fear. "I forbid it." "You cannot forbid this, brother. I am the best pilot we have for small ships. I know the weak points better than anyone, and I am volunteering. The choice is mine." Silence, then another voice cut in. "You are not going alone. I am coming with you. Your fleet needs you." "My fleet needs the dead. You are the best chance for that, so I am coming. Do not argue." Almost laughed. Humans were so stubborn, so wonderful. "Fine, meet me at Shuttle Bay 3. We leave in 5 minutes." The shuttle was small and fast, designed for rescue missions. Now it carried 2 passengers and 1 bomb that would change everything. Flew operated the weapons. Together they wove through the battle, dodging beams and drones. Around them ships died. Explosions filled the void, but they kept going. "Command ship ahead," reported. "It is massive, the biggest one I have ever seen." "That is our target, the HiveLink hub. If we destroy the connection there, the entire armada will lose coordination." "How do we get inside?" Smiled grimly. "We ask nicely." She flew directly at the command ship's drone bay. The massive doors were open, launching drones by the hundreds. It was suicide to fly in there, so that is exactly what she did. The shuttle burst through the launching drones and into the ship itself. Metal corridors flashed past, twisted and turned, following the schematics they had built from data, deeper and deeper into the monster's heart. There, pointed, the communication center. Landed the shuttle hard. They grabbed the device and ran. Inside the ship, the air was wrong. It smelled of oil and meat and something worse. The walls pulsed like living tissue. Cables that looked like veins ran along the ceiling. They found the communication hub. It was a massive chamber filled with organic towers that hummed with energy. The HiveLink, the nerve center of the entire armada. "Set the device," said. "I will cover you." Worked fast. Her hands did not shake. She had accepted death the moment she volunteered. Fear had no power over her anymore. Done. 30 seconds until activation. They turned to run, but the had found them. Drones poured into the chamber, fired her weapon, cutting down the first wave, joined her. Back to back they fought. 10 seconds. More drones came, too many. Felt a beam graze her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. 5 seconds. Grabbed her and pulled her toward the shuttle. They were not going to make it. They both knew it. 2 seconds. Reached out and slapped the shuttle's emergency launch. The small ship shot backward out of the chamber, carrying them with it. The device activated. The explosion was not physical. It was a wave of disruption that spread through the HiveLink like fire through dry grass. Every ship in the armada suddenly went silent. Drones stopped moving. Weapons stopped firing. The great machine fleet became a collection of confused, disconnected parts. "Now," roared, "all ships attack." The human and fleet struck with everything they had. Without coordination, they could not defend themselves. Ships were destroyed one by one. Harvesters burned. The impossible became possible. When the disruption ended, 5 minutes later, half the armada was gone. The remaining ships tried to regroup, but it was too late. The momentum had shifted. The tide had turned. By the time the battle ended, only 20 ships remained. They fled into deep space, beaten and broken. The cost was terrible. Half the human fleet was destroyed. Another ship was gone. Millions of people had died on ships and on the ground where weapons had struck. But Earth survived. The armada was broken. The enemy was running. And somewhere in the wreckage of the command ship, a small shuttle drifted without power. Search parties found them 2 hours later, and floating in the vacuum, their emergency suits nearly out of air. They were unconscious. They were badly wounded. But they were alive. Across the galaxy, neutral observers had watched the battle. They had broadcast it to 400 worlds. 400 species saw two forgotten peoples stand against impossible odds and win. The Galactic Assembly said nothing. But on dozens of planets, in dozens of languages, the same words were being spoken. If they could do it, maybe we can too. Something had changed. Something was beginning. And it had started with two women from different worlds, holding onto each other in the darkness, refusing to let go. 5 years had passed since the Battle of Earth. The world had changed. The galaxy had changed. Everything had changed. They no longer lived on ships. Earth had given them a continent, a vast land of forests and rivers and mountains. For the first time in 60 years, they had a home, real homes with walls and roofs and gardens, real schools where children learned without fear, real hospitals where the sick were healed instead of left to die. And for the first time in 60 years, Bobbies were born on solid ground. Elder Bora did not live to see the new settlements completed. She died 3 months after the battle, peacefully in her sleep. But before she went, she stood on soil one last time and smiled. "We survived," she whispered. "We did more than survive, we lived." Her last words became the motto of the new nation. We lived. Stood at her memorial now, 5 years later. He was fully recovered, though the scar on his side would never fade. He wore the uniform of the Joint Defense Fleet, the combined military force of humans, and he was its commander, chosen by both peoples to lead their shared forces. Beside him stood Commander, now Ambassador, Earth's representative to the galactic community. The old soldier had traded his weapons for words, though he still walked like a man ready for battle. "She would be proud," said quietly. "Look at what we have built." Nodded. Around them, the memorial garden was filled with people. Humans and together, their children playing side by side. The two species had become so intertwined that it was sometimes hard to tell where one ended and the other began. "I used to think we were cursed," said. I thought we were destined to wander forever, homeless and hopeless. I was wrong. We just needed to find the right people to be homeless with." Laughed softly. "And we thought we were alone in the universe. We thought no one cared about our little blue planet. We were wrong too. Funny how that works." "Yes, funny." In orbit above Earth, a new ship waited. It was beautiful, a perfect blend of human and design. Its name was painted on the hull in both languages, New Dawn. Stood on its bridge looking out at the stars. She was 30 now, no longer the frightened communications officer she had once been. She was a captain. More than that, she was an explorer, the first of a new generation. Beside her, as always, was the human pilot. Had scars now, marks of the battles she had fought and survived. But her eyes were still bright, still hungry for the horizon. "Are you ready?" asked. Smiled. "I was born ready. Are you?" "No, but when has that ever stopped us?" They shared a laugh. 5 years of friendship, of shared danger and shared joy, had made them more than friends. They were sisters in everything but blood. The New Dawn was not a warship, though it could fight if needed. It was an exploration vessel. Its mission was simple: to go out into the galaxy and find others like them. Other forgotten peoples, other abandoned worlds, other species that the Assembly had decided were not worth saving. And to offer them what they had once offered Earth. "All stations report ready," the navigation officer announced. Took a deep breath. "Set course for the outer territories. There are reports of a species called the Under Attack by Raiders. The Assembly has declined to intervene." "Of course they have," muttered. "Which is why we are going. Open a channel to Earth Command." The Flickerden's face appeared. He looked older now, more tired, but also more peaceful. The weight he had carried for so long had finally lifted. New Dawn, this is Earth Command. We have received your mission parameters. You are cleared for departure. Thank you, Commander. Paused. Brother, take care of yourself. Smiled. You too, little sister. Find them, help them, show them what we showed Earth. We will. The channel closed. The New Dawn turned away from Earth and accelerated toward the stars. Back on the surface, received a message. The Galactic Assembly had sent another delegation. They wanted to talk about Earth joining their organization. They wanted to offer protection and guidance. Met them in a simple conference room. The Assembly representatives were tall and elegant, dressed in robes that probably cost more than most Earth buildings. They looked at him with polite contempt. Ambassador, the lead representative said, the Assembly is prepared to offer Earth full membership. You would receive our protection, our technology, our trade networks. All we ask in return is compliance with Assembly regulations. Listened patiently, then he smiled. Thank you for the offer, we decline. The representative stared at him. You decline, you cannot be serious. I am very serious. 5 years ago, when they were harvesting our people, we begged for your help. You told us we were not worth saving. You watched our children die and did nothing. Now you want us to join you? No, we do not need your protection, but we will offer ours. What do you mean? I mean that any world the Assembly abandons, any species you decide is not worth saving can come to us. We will help them. We will fight for them. We will do what you refuse to do. The representatives were speechless. This was not how small, primitive species were supposed to behave. You are making a mistake, one of them finally said. The Assembly will remember this insult. Good stood. Remember it well, and remember this. The forgotten do not stay forgotten forever. Sometimes they rise. Sometimes they change everything. Now, if you will excuse me, I have a world to help rebuild. He walked out of the room and did not look back. In the outer territories, the New Dawn dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Ahead of them, a small planet burned. Raider ships circled it like vultures. Distress signals filled every frequency. Please, a voice cried. If anyone can hear us, please help. We cannot fight, we cannot run. Please, someone, anyone, help us. Looked at, no words were needed between them anymore. All hands to battle stations, commanded. Prepare to engage the raiders. Captain, the tactical officer said nervously. We are 1 ship against 12. The odds are not in our favor. Laughed. The odds are never in our favor. That is sort of our thing. The New Dawn moved forward, its weapons charged, its shields activated. 1 ship against 12. 1 crew against an army. Opened a channel to the planet below. People of this is Captain of the starship New Dawn. We have heard your call. We have come to help. You are not alone anymore. The same words her brother had spoken 5 years ago when they arrived at Earth. The same promise, passed on to a new generation. The raiders noticed them now. They turned away from the planet, surprised and angry. Who was this fool, this single ship, daring to challenge them? They would learn, just as they had learned, just as the galaxy would learn. The forgotten were rising, and they would never stop fighting for each other. As the New Dawn charged into battle, looked at and grinned. Ready to make history again. Smiled back, always. The stars watched as the battle began, and somewhere across the vast darkness of space, other forgotten peoples heard the stories. They heard about Earth and They heard about courage and sacrifice. They heard about 2 species that refused to give up, that chose to help strangers instead of looking away. And they began to hope. Because that is what the forgotten do. They hope, they fight, they survive, and sometimes when they are very lucky they find each other. And when they do, nothing in the galaxy can stop them. We are on our way. You are not alone.